All right, today we're going to break down a really simple but honestly a super powerful tool for leadership, for teamwork, and really for just about any interaction you have. It's called the above-below-the-line model, and it all kicks off with one basic question.
So let's just dive right in with the single most important question this whole model is built to answer. You see, conscious leaders are constantly asking themselves, where am I? Not, physically, but where am I mentally and emotionally, right now, in this moment?
And the tool for answering that is about as simple as it gets. It's just a line. Seriously, just picture a horizontal line in your mind that divides your whole state of being into two very, very different realities.
Here's the deal. At any given moment, every single one of us is operating in one of these two places. We're either above this line or we are below it. There's really no in-between. So what does that actually look like? Well, when you're above the line, you're in a state of openness. You're curious, you're actually receptive to new ideas, and your main goal, your commitment, is to learning. But the moment you slip below that line, everything flips. You become closed off, you get defensive, and your driving commitment shifts to one thing and one thing only: being right.
And these two states, they're driven by completely different core beliefs. I mean, look at this. Below the line, we're coming from a place of scarcity and threat. We're thinking there's not enough time, not enough money. We're convinced our story is the only right story. We feel like we're under attack. But above the line, the world looks totally different. We believe that learning is way more important than being right, that every single thing that happens is an opportunity to grow, and yeah, that we can even find some humor in the challenges.
Now, before we go any further, this is probably the most important point of all. Going below the line is not a character flaw, it's not a failure, it is a completely natural, hardwired human response. So the key takeaway is this. Every single person, I don't care how self-aware you are, is going to go below the line. The game isn't about trying to avoid it, because you can't. It's about recognizing when it's happening and realizing that staying there, well, that's a choice. So why does this happen? Well, it happens because our brains are literally wired for survival. The second we perceive a threat, and this is so important, it doesn't have to be a real physical threat. It can just be a threat to our ego or our identity. Our brain releases this chemical cocktail. Our emotional brain completely hijacks our logical brain, and our entire focus narrows down to protecting ourselves, not connecting with others.
And this is exactly how that ancient wiring plays out in the modern workplace, right? The threats aren't saber-toothed tigers anymore. They're feeling blamed in a meeting, or feeling ignored on an email thread, or just that nagging fear that you might look stupid. But to our brain, the response is basically the same. It's screaming, "I don't feel safe right now."
Okay, so if this is happening all the time, how do you actually spot it? How do you know when you, or maybe someone on your team, has slipped below that line?
Well, these below-the-line behaviors, they tend to pop up in really predictable patterns. You know that moment someone jumps in with, "Okay, let me explain," before they've even really heard what you have to say? That's defensiveness. It's driven by that belief of "I'm being attacked." Or when you hear blame, "Well, if they had just done their part." The belief underneath is, "This is not my fault." And that victim mindset? It sounds like, "Nothing ever changes around here," which really just comes from a deep feeling of being powerless.
On the flip side, above-the-line behavior looks and feels totally different. It's all about ownership, being able to say, you know what, here's my part in this. It's about genuine curiosity, asking, hey, can you help me understand your perspective? It's about having the self-control to just pause before you react. And it's about focusing on solutions, shifting from asking, why did this happen, to, okay, what now?
So here it is, the million-dollar question. You notice you're below the line. You're feeling defensive, you're frustrated, you're closed off. What do you actually do to get back above it?
And here's the biggest secret of this entire model, and it's awesome. The very moment you have the thought, oh, wow, I'm below the line right now, that moment of awareness by itself is an above-the-line act. You have already started the journey back just by noticing. You don't have to fix everything all at once. The process is simple. It's not always easy, but it's simple. First, you notice. Then you pause. Just take one single conscious breath. What that does is it creates a tiny bit of space between the trigger and your reaction. And in that little space, you get to choose. You get to choose a more conscious, a more productive next step.
Now, to make this real, especially on a team, it helps a ton to have a shared, non-judgmental language. Using phrases like these creates what we call psychological safety. It's a signal that it's okay to be human, and it turns what could be a tense moment of personal defensiveness into a chance for the whole group to be honest and just reset.
Okay, so let's zoom out for a second.
This isn't just some tool for your own self-improvement. When an entire team starts using this model, it fundamentally changes the way they work together. It transforms their whole culture. Think about it. Teams that can openly say, hey, I think I'm below the line right now, become so much more resilient. They bounce back from conflict faster because they aren't pretending it's not happening. They stop wasting all that energy on blame and office politics, and instead, that energy gets channeled into building real trust and creating a culture where it's actually safe to learn instead of just posturing.
So let's be crystal clear on what the objective is here. The goal is not perfection. It is not to never go below the line, because that's literally impossible. The goal is simply to shorten the amount of time you spend there and to get faster at recovering and getting back above it.
And this really is the final, most crucial takeaway. The strength of a leader or a team or a whole company isn't defined by whether people get defensive or triggered. That's going to happen. The culture is defined by what happens next. Is there a shared commitment to noticing it, to owning it without any shame, and most importantly, to choosing to come back above the line together?